Good afternoon, Lakers. We are going to be working today on section 7.3, this idea of trying to find a cumulative distribution and then use that to be able to find a median value on a graph. We're also going to look at an estimate of a mean average as well. Okay, so we've got some different things to take a look at. Before we start, though, you do need to open up your notebooks and we're going to title this section 7.3, so maybe you enter this into your table of contents and then open up to a new page. Cumulative distributions and medians. And while you're writing that down, and after that you can set your pencil down because we're going to take a look at some things just to review some ideas. So first of all, this is where we're headed. Okay, so this is kind of the idea. And what I notice about this picturing, now this is purple around here, you don't need to write this down. I noticed that we've got some important points labeled. So for example, this point right in the middle of the graph, this guy right here, this seems to partner together two values, 8 and 65. And it's telling me that the median value is this partnered pair of 8 and 65. Along the vertical axis, we usually put frequencies. So I think this 8 refers to like the 8th data point. Okay. And then the 8th data point would be 65. I think the median value is 65 in this case. And this is kind of where we're headed. Okay. So we're going to create graphs like this. Before we do that, though, I just want to remind everybody that when you find the median value, it's finding the middle of a data set. And again, this is a purple page. We don't need to write this down. Okay, so I've got the data set in order. There's only 5 data points. The one in the middle is 22. We could also have a data set like this. And I saw some mistakes on this when I was looking at students assigned practice. For sure, I saw some students take a look at this list and they said, hey, the middle data point right here is 17 and a half. So they said the median was 17 and a half. I don't know. I think these are just the possible data values. The other thing I saw is that some people took the frequency and they just took there's a list of frequency values and then put them in order and found the middle frequency value. So it looks like there's maybe 7 different values here. We've got a couple of 3s, a couple of 5s, and a 6, a 7, and 11. I think that 6 is in an organized list would be the middle value. So they said the median is 6. No, okay. Neither of those ideas is right. What you really need to do is realize that in this table of values, this frequency table, it's essentially saying that the first value is 15, and the second value is also 15, and the third value is 15, and so is the fourth value and the fifth value. I'm getting that by noticing that there's 5 values that are 15. And then after that, we're going to switch over to some 16s. And we're going to keep going and filling in the list. I know the last 3 numbers in our list are going to be 21, 21, and 21. And what I have to do is figure out what's in the middle. So if there's 40 numbers in the list, I've got to find like the in-between of the 20th and the 21st data point. So kind of looking across this list here, I know that this is 12 data values. And if I group that together with this, that's 22 data values. Okay, so I think the 22nd data value is going to be 17. And I think let's put that in yellow. And I think the 21st data value is 17 and the 20th value is 17. Hey, we found right in the middle of the chart here. It's the middle number is going to be 17. Okay, so there I'm just showing you some reasoning. I think what we can do now is actually start taking some notes here because we're going to talk about grouped data. Okay, so I do want to give you some time here because this is now a black border page, and I'd like you to actually copy some data into your notes. So we have this here grouped data. when we have data like this, we can not exactly calculate a median value, but we can estimate a median value using something called a cumulative frequency distribution or a cumulative frequency chart. So we'll maybe pause the video here and be able to copy down this chart. I think if you were writing down the chart, maybe I wouldn't make it so big, maybe something like this. So you have some space off to the right, but if you've already started and you're writing huge, whatever. You just use more pages. Now, one thing I notice about this tally chart is that they've, apparently the strike through feature in their notation just lets them do horizontal lines. So usually, like I would do a diagonal line there, but whatever. I think what this chart is telling us is that we've got one data point somewhere in between 0 and 39. I don't know what it is. We have 5 data points between 40 and 79. And again, I don't know what they are. I just know that they're between 40 and 79. I mean, heck, they could be 5 60s. Or, we could have a 41 and a 47 and a 52 and a 63 and then a 78. As long as you've got 5 data points in between 40 and 79. That's really all the information we have. And then there's 12 data points in between 80 and 119 and so on. So what we're going to do is take this data and do something with it here. We need to create another column. Okay, so I took out the tally column in the middle, and I'm adding another column off to the right. So maybe on your graph, your chart, you're gonna have 4 columns. Cumulative frequency. Okay, so now let's see if we can't figure out what I'm doing here. The first number I'm going to put in here is a 1. And then the next number in my list that I'm going to put in is a 6. And then the next number is a 18. 18, where did I get that? Hey, I think what we're doing there is adding these values together. At least that's what I know I'm doing. So that means that this value of 18 is telling me that there are 18 data points that are at most 119. To get this next value, I'd have to add up these 4 frequencies. So that total is going to be 26. We would have 26 data values. And we're saying here 26 data points that are at most 159. We're not saying 26 data points between 120 and 159. Did I say 169? We're saying 26 data points between 0 and 159. And then we would have a 30 and then a 31. Now, if I've done this right, my last value, 31, is telling me we've got 31 data points between 0 and 239. It should match this total of the frequencies. Okay, we're going to try and do something with this now. Now that we've got this chart, and I think I can move this, and we're going to draw a couple of different graphs together. So the first graph that I'm going to do is just a standard frequency histogram, and really I think this is more of a column graph. Okay, so I'm just going to get a little L-shaped thing here. I'm going to worry about the labels a little bit later, and I'll show you how I do that. I know that these class intervals go from like 0 to 39, 40 to 79, and so on. I think what I would like to do in this case is just realize that, if I take this horizontal line and I'm going to put my class intervals along the bottom here, I can just cut that in half and then put another tick mark over here. I know the biggest value that I'm going to pick, it better be a little bit smaller than 240. because 239 is the biggest number. And then half of that is 120. Looking at this list here, I've got like 6 total lines, right? Okay, so 120 is right in the middle. I'm going to break this into 2 approximately equal pieces. Label one of them 40 and then one of them 80. You see what I'm effectively doing is splitting the horizontal axis into 6 equal chunks. Nice, huh? 160, 200. Now to get things to work out nicely here, I'm going to look at my frequency column and realize that 12 is as big as I get. I need to get up to 12 somehow. So I'm going to put a little mark here and call this 10. And a little bit more than that is 12. And half of 10 is 5. So I can kind of mark this off. I know 15 is going to be up here somewhere. I'll just mark off 12. And this is a frequency. Let's spell the whole word. So now this is a frequency graph. Okay, and if I were going to put in the lines here, I need to mark off that in between 0 and 39, we had 1 total data point. You know what? I'm not going to shade them in. Okay, so here's my first bar. I'm going to put a 1 on top of that because I'm trying to communicate the information in the chart. And then between 40 and 80, it looks like we've got 5. So I'm going to draw a horizontal line across here at 5, and then a couple of vertical lines. And in between 80 and 120, we need 12. In between 120 and 159, 120 and 160, we need 8 of them. And between 160 and 200, we have 4. So I'll make that a little bit lower than 5 was before. And then we need 1 more. Okay, so this is a frequency graph. So now let's make that cumulative frequency graph. I'm trying to show you the difference between the two here. So for a cumulative frequency graph, let's make this a little bit bigger. How good can I freehand this thing? I don't like that horizontal line. Let me try again. Okay, so we're going to mark off some increments here. Same idea as before. Halfway across could be 120, and all the way across could be 240. And I'll break these pieces into thirds. So we have 40 and 80, and then 160 and 200. And then on the vertical axis, I'm going to put the cumulative frequency. So now I need to count up to at least 31. And instead of making that 31, I'm just going to make that 30. And then I know 31 is just a little bit above that. So I'll do my best to kind of split this into thirds. And let's see, we've got a 20 and a 10. So now let's see, I'm going to come in here with let's try another color, green. And I need to put in a point that shows that there's at most one data, or there is one data value that is at most 39. Okay, so I'm going to put there's a one data value that is less than 40. Okay, so I'm just going to put a dot here. And I'm trying to show that that is 1 unit above the horizontal axis. And then we need a cumulative frequency of 6. So this point here that I'm graphing would be 80, 6. And what I'm showing there is that there are 6 data values that are less than 80. And then we're going to put in another coordinate point here at 120, 18. So I'll put in a point here. And what I'm showing there is that there's 120 values, yes, 120, I said that wrong, 18 values that are less than 120. And the next data point, 160, 26. And then 200, 30. And 240, 31. And what I hope you see is that you've got this sort of approximate winding kind of a graph. And we're not saying the data values are exactly this, but watch what happens. I think in my list of 31 data items, I think the median data value is going to be the 16th data value in that list. Okay, so the 16th data value is about right here. And if I trace that over to the graph, right, median right on top of that, I can draw on a line down and I can make an approximation now of the median. So the median is approximately, so I'll write approx, I'll call that 110. Now, if you had graph paper, obviously this is going to come out slightly more precise. You can do a better job of graphing points exactly where they're supposed to go. I'm trying to show you that you can do this freehand too and get a reasonably decent answer here. Looking at the chart that we had above there, 110 would fit kind of in between 80 and 119 on those class intervals. And, sure enough, I think that the median happens somewhere in that class interval. So 110 is a reasonable answer for the median here. Okay, so we're just trying to find medians right now using these cumulative frequency graphs. Let's take a look at one other thing. This is estimating a mean average for that same group data. Okay, so I just want to give you maybe another, just a moment to try and copy down this information again into a second chart, because I want to show you that you can find the middle of the data there. Okay, I'm assuming you're back from doing this, but once again, like that first data point is just somewhere in between 0 and 39. And the next 5 data points, somewhere in between 40 and 79. Hey, the mean average of those 5 data points is probably going to be a lot like just 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 divided by 5. Now I picked 60 because it's in the middle of 40 and 79. If I want to be really precise, I do 59.5. But we're just trying to get an estimate here. So I just want to show you that you can find an estimate value. I think the middle of this interval, first interval, would be about 20. Keep in mind, we're just being approximate here, but that's pretty close. The mean of the middle would be 19.5. So 20 is pretty close. The middle of the next interval would be 60. The middle of the third interval would be 100. And then so on down the line. I noticed we're adding 40 each time. Now, if I wanted to find the average value here, I'm going to have to add together 20 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60 for the first 6 data points, and then just keep going, right? The other thing I could do is just do some multiplication. So I can have a 1 times 20 is equal to 20. I can have a 5 times 60 is equal to 300. Oh boy, a 12 times 100 is equal to 1,200. An 8 multiplied by 140, I think that's 1,120. And then a 4 multiplied by 180, that's 720. And then lastly, a 1 multiplied by 220. And then I can get a total. So if I added together all of these data values, all 31 of these data values, and keep in mind, the total would be approximately, if I added that all together, I think I get, I did this before, 3,580. So we're getting like a grand total of all of the values. And keep in mind, like this middle section that we have right here, adding together 12 100s is probably going to be really close to adding together 12 values that all happen to be between 80 and 119. That's kind of why we can do this. Okay, so then the mean average, here we go. That's just going to be the total divided by the number of data points. So in this case, I get 115.5. I don't have any labels on this data, so I don't know what this means. To have an average of 115.5. But there you go. That would be the value, such that if you had 31 of those data points and added them all together, you probably get something very close to 31 multiplied by 115.5. Okay, so I hope that kind of clears some things up for you about cumulative distributions, and then how to find a median average, and maybe even how to estimate a mean average from a grouped interval data. And your teacher's going to have some practice problems for you to try. Have a great day.